Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to my channel. Happy Surging Sparks release day. The day is finally here. What better place to celebrate it by looking at the top 5 competitive picks for this brand new format. These are the meta deck, which I think are going to do absolutely incredible right now. Haven't really changed too much from the Stellar Crown format, but there's a ton of really interesting cards from Surging Sparks that really elevated some of these picks. So in today's video, we're going to break down these one, look at the deck list and kind of the new cards that really kind of gained and what sort of competitively viable they're going to be at the latest regional championships or your local events. So without further ado, let's look at my number 5 pick, and that actually goes to Ceruledge EX, one of the only brand new sort of archetypes I think it's got a huge potential right now. Now, obviously in Japan it's doing pretty well, with being about a tier 3 archetype, which is about 2% of the top 16 results at the City League. But it has an amazing attack. 30 damage plus 20 more for each energy on discard pile. Direct this deck, you go very fast with your discarding factor. Think of like Carmine, think of Squawkabilly, Gradient Greninja, Ultra Ball, Earthen Vessel. Get a ton of energy on discard pile, and effectively turn 3, you're hitting over 300 damage, pretty much KOing every single thing in the format. What I love about this one, you evolve from a single prize Pokemon, so you can have a single prize board state turn 1. Now, this is how I've been playing Ceruledge, and I think it's the best way around it. And looking at the City League Championships, that is definitely the most common sort of way. You can add likes of Regidrago, but I love Palkia. The reason why I love Palkia is because you can actually attack with likes of Radiant Greninja. You're already going to have a ton of energy on discard pile, so actually using your Star Portal to attack with Radiant Greninja is incredibly strong. Taking additional 2 prize cards with a single prize Pokemon is really powerful. Or you can attack with Palkia. If you have full bench, your opponent's full bench, 260 damage, that KOs Raging Bolt. That is a very good niche attacking option. Obviously, you play that brilliant blender, discard a ton of energies from your discard pile, from your deck into a discard pile. You can see here you're very fast, very aggressive. Night Stretcher is amazing synergy. You can bring back your energies or potentially your Ceruledge to constantly streamline the attacking option. Obviously, that canceling clone to actually go around like Radiant Greninja. I really like this deck. You still have Briar as well because you are a Terra Pokemon, so you can go around that, take additional more prize cards that way. And obviously, Jet Energy is a really good switching out in case you go against any of these Stalling sort of archetype. This is a very fun, very aggressive archetype, and generally, I think has a really good potential in the meta competitively. Now, my number 4 pick is a huge surprise for me. It's Ancient Box. For those who don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of this archetype. Obviously, it did pretty well on the lead up to Worlds, but kind of like died down a little bit. But I think right now, it is on an absolute tear. Being about a tier 2 deck right now in Japan, and it's incredibly strong, and it's the whole reason why. That new Koraidon really unlocks the archetype. Doing 180 damage if you use an ancient attack on your previous turn is incredibly strong. Gone are the days of trying to set up your other Koraidon as well to try and have a full bench, and then you try and hit that 180 damage. This one here guarantees a one-hit KO, which I think is absolutely incredible as a single price attacking option. There's also quite a few new cards they've got to. You got that new Fluttermane as well to move around some damage counter. Precious Trolley as well, that new Ace Spec to flood your board with basic Pokemon, Lively Stadium to have even more HP, which again I really like, but also Brilliant Blender. And I'm really going to talk about exactly why I think Brilliant Blender is a lot worse sort of style pick than likes of Secret Box. You can see here the rest of the deck here is very much straightforward. Great Tusk as well, like I mentioned before, this deck is we're in a format which is incredibly aggressive. So having a really good discarding factor when you've got decks like Rory Moon, Ancient Box, likes of Regidrago and Raging Bolt going through half their deck on their first turn, kind of like minimizing, capitalizing, and destroying lots of their archetype is really strong. Now, I mentioned before, I think that Secret Box is much stronger than the likes of Brilliant Blender. Well, if we look at Brilliant Blender, you instantly discard top 5, you discard 5 ancient cards from the deck, which is really powerful. If we look at Secret Box, you have to discard 3 cards already. Discard 3 ancient cards, you're already at 3 at your total. You search your deck, you can get your Sardi, you get the Vessel, you get your Ancient Piece of Capture Energy, you got your Pokestop, you play all of those cards, you would discard the Ancient Piece of Capture Energy, you Earthen Vessel, you're at 5, you play Sardi, you're at 6, you're suddenly Pokestop, you discard 2 more, all of a sudden those have become 8 ancient cards in a discard pile compared to 5 guaranteed from the Brilliant Blender. That's why I think Secret Box is a must for this style deck. Petron as well to have additional switching out, because Japan is in a really good format right now where Stall is doing incredibly well, and having a guaranteed switching out or potentially attacking in the late game with Dark Patch is really strong. The rest of this deck is very straightforward. I'm growing into really liking Ancient Box, and I think it's in a really good spot right now going into a brand new meta game. Now, my number 3 pick actually goes to Regidrago. Now, my number 3, 2, and 1 definitely haven't really changed too much in Stellar Crown, but they have gained some incredibly good cards, because also the top 3 decks generally are the top 3 decks because they are absolutely powerful. Now, Regidrago is a tier 1 archetype right now in Japan, and it gets gained quite a few new cards. It does have that Illuminate Executor for a fun sort of style attack. You have the Cyrano to actually get loads of your EX basic Pokemon, but also that Scramble Switch, one of my favorite aspects, is returning, and I think it's incredibly strong, and that's why I've included it in this new Regidrago. For example, you've used your Kirim, and also you've wiped away all of your energies out in play, and you have to use your Legacy VSTAR to actually bring back loads of resources like Energy Switch or Energy Swell to actually attach to this one. Well, all of a sudden, you can now play Scramble Switch, move around the energies to a fresh Regidrago and attack with that one. And that just makes it so much better. So you can streamline your Giratinas and Kieran plays much earlier on, which I absolutely love. The rest of this one is still very straightforward about where we've seen sort of Regidrago go. I've really still having one copy of Jamming Tower, one copy of Temple of Sinnoh, still have a Cancelling Clone. I've gone back to the Gudra because I think if we're in a format where there's a ton of Raging Bolt and lots of these big one-hit KOs, I think it's really good to protect you in the mirror match, as well as also against these big Raging Bolts ones we can try and capitalize and get these big one-hit KOs, or even really stalling against these single prize archetypes. I think this is a really good pick for Regidrago right now, and definitely the best way around it. And I really like Scramble Switch as the ace spec. Now, my number 2 pick is actually Charizard, and there's obviously no surprise what the number 1 pick is, but Charizard didn't really gain a ton of new cards. Obviously, we've seen it do quite well in our tournaments right now. We've seen it do well in Japan as well, and it hasn't really had that moment to shine. But there's one new card got added to it, Precious Trolley, which I think absolutely unlocks Charizard because it's one of the best attackers right now in the game. Precious Trolley, what it reads is you get to put fill your entire bench with basic Pokemon, which I think is really good. It's Battlefield P-Pass mixed with Buddy Puffin, mixed with Netsball. It's just absolutely incredible. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this one. Think about how many times have you done Arvin for Nestball and Forest Hill Stone? You Nestball to get your Rotom, then you Forest Hill Stone to actually get Buddy Puffin. In this case, you just use the Precious Carrier, you get your Charmanders, your Pidgeys, potentially your Duskulls, or even your Clefairy to attack in the next turn, or even your Rotom. And then you can save your Forest Hill Stone for the much later style of the game, which I absolutely love. I think it's really good. You can use your Forest Hill Stone to actually consistency to get potentially your Charizard, your Red Candy, your Briar for game in the next later turn, or it potentially collapse in to remove any liabilities. I really love having the activate much later on and using the Precious Cargo to actually fill up your board with all the useful Pokemon you need to have and not really rely on potentially a top deck. This is where I think Charizard actually is going to be much stronger. I think Clefairy makes Charizard, again, really strong because you've now got Rotom and Clefairy on your after the end of your first turn if you go second. So yeah, I am a huge fan of this Charizard build, especially with the Precious Cargo, and going to be the best way to play Charizard moving forward. Now, of course, to no surprise whatsoever, the number 1 pick is Raging Bolt. It has been the top deck right now competing in Japan. It has been pretty much the most played archetype in all of our regional events right now because it's so easy to play and really consistent overall. And there was a ton of new cards that came. Getting Terra Orb to guarantee to find a way to Ogerpon, who has also likes of the Cyrano to actually get all your basic EX Pokemon. You have the Crydon as another secondary attacking option instead of likes of a Slitherring or the Sandy Shocks guarantee you 180 damage, which is really strong. You have a Lively Stadium if you want even more HP on the Raging Bolt, which is absolutely insane. Precious Trolley to flood the board state, or even Latias EX as well. All of these stuff, there is a ton of cards to play this one. I would recommend even going back to the likes of the Area Zero decks. You can flood out the board with having a lot of the Latias EX to give free retreat. This one here, I've kind of kept it straightforward. Looked at Caleb Getterman's sort of list, looked at other sort of style Raging Bolts around in Japan, and just thought, clean and simple is the best way, and it hasn't gone wrong before. That's exactly why I've gone back to this one. Having a 1 Corridon as well is, I think, really strong. Granted, it's not going to potentially be as strong as like the Sandy Shocks or Slipwing. We can actually get the guaranteed attack and do that huge amount of damage. This relies on you have to use either a Burst War or Bellamy Thunder from Raging Bolt beforehand to actually get this big one-hit KO or some single price Pokemon. So that's generally one thing to be concerned about. The rest of this one is just very fast, very straightforward, very clean. That's the reason why I think Raging Bolt with Ogerpon is one of the best decks right now to play in the format. And just so powerful, especially in this brand new deck. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. What do you think are the best decks right now to play in Surging Spark? As you know, I did it a couple days ago, the Rogue sort of decks as well, the ones which I think are the most fun one, like Togekiss with Dusknoir or potentially even Pikachu. Now, will we see any sort of different sort of change as we get more into Surging Spark, as we finally get access for cards? Will the meta sort of develop around it? Now, we know we're a couple of weeks away from actually seeing it really see competitively. We're not going to see it be in LAIC, so I'm really excited to see exactly how the format is really going to develop in this brand new set. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Comment down below, what is your favorite deck from Surging Sparks and why? And I'll see you guys in a few days' time for another video. Bye for now.